Welcome back to It Tastes Like Burning, this Matt.
This is Jesse.
And thank you for chiming in again. And if you ever have questions and you ever want to reach out to us or have a thought, shoot us an email at ittasteslikeburningcast@gmail.com. You can support us on Patreon. You can find us on YouTube at It Tastes Like Burning Cast. And you can occasionally find us on Twitter every so often, assuming that we ever have an opportunity to come up for fresh air.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been busy, right?
Yeah, we're sitting here, we probably spent 45 minutes just now trying to figure out what the hell we're going to talk about. And
And we
we,
have lots of things to talk about. Some of them we can't talk about, but we have lots of things. And then we have a gentleman we've had on the podcast a couple times got a great topic that we're going to do down the road, but we're going to go see him and sit down and do that at his station. Like there's stuff, but it's just kind of we were at a loss today a little bit.
we, God, it's just been so busy. I, I really wish that we could just get a month off, just a week off, just to catch something of a break. And I think the only way we're going to be able to do it is just leave.
The December maybe.
You know,
Yeah,
just
around the
get
holidays.
off.
We usually we tend to slow down on the podcast, slow down on training. Like December's our kind of let it ride month, right? So hopefully we get a little break there. And we were talking earlier about just what we were going to talk about, and it, it's a broad discussion, and I think we're going to bounce into it about just politics and political maneuvering and kind of how you engage in politics and what happens to you when you don't, right? And we had a locally with our department had a small political engagement for funding to repair our training facility.
Yes.
Fairly benign, pretty easy, no real opposition, but it took some politics, right? You have to go make presentations. You've got to engage with the political entity. In this case, it would have been our county commissioners that we approached for this. And, it takes a little bit of there's some work that goes into that, right? Some
Right.
political
Well,
work.
just okay. Here's the basic project. Training field was built 10 years ago. When it was built, the training center needed some paving work done, just chip seal grading work. We turned around and entered into an MOU with the county for their guaranteed access, not only for fire, but for law enforcement also, so they could have a training facility. Yeah, that's awesome when you have flashbangs that haven't gone off in a burn house and you're burning.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you find them.
you get to find them. Different story. And the county did it. It was awesome. County employees jumped into it with just arms wide open. They did a fantastic job. Uh, when I say we got every nickel of money that they spent, we got some extra even on top of that. And county departments had unabated access to a training facility and a fire academy. Well, the contract was only for 7 years. Well, it expired. And here's the shocker, we just continued to operate as normal. There, no dust up, no pin on a hand grenade thrown, no big issues. Just operated as normal. Continued to do training with our neighboring departments. Continue to do the fire academy. Fast forward about 3 4 years, the burn house, it needs a little work. Okay, and it needs a little work right now so that it doesn't need gigantic work in 5 years. We do a little bit of work right now. This is going to keep this burn house operating for another 10, 15 years, no questions asked, without blinking an eye. So, but the county's been operating without a contract and access to the facility, and technically the rookie school off of that. So it just makes sense. Make a little itty bitty presentation to the commissioners, let them know how much the project cost, what the work looks like, Try and get multiple bids. We'll talk about that in a second. And don't don't be ridiculous in your new MOU. Just carbon copy the old MOU that everyone liked. Change paving to repairs. Maybe change some dates, and you're ready to rock and roll. Not a big deal. Show up to commissioner's court, make the pitch, and if you guys haven't already been able to tell, I have a tendency to be long-winded. I get interrupted by the judge. He pats me on the head and says, "They're there. We get it." And then he makes the motion and it passes. So that was it. Nothing to it. And how was that possible? Just waltz into commissioner's court, very short notice, and just say, "Hey, I have a project. I need this done." And 2 weeks later, it happened. Bam. No fuss, no dust up, no flare up, no shots across the bow, no no white powder sent in the mail, nothing.
Yeah.
Just magically happened.
It's just those relationships, those professional relationships that you build through doing stuff, and being in I wouldn't say constant contact, but staying in contact with your political critters, right? Staying so that they know who you are and what you're doing, and they may not know every nuance, but they understand the concept of what you're working on and what's trying to happen.
Right. And here's a real novel concept. Actually being a benefit to them. And I'm not talking about being a political lapdog. What I'm talking about is when you have the opportunity to speak publicly about them, say nice things. In this case, I have nothing but nice things to say. They've all been fantastic to work with. They've all asked good questions. And at the end of the day, they just want the best for the local citizenry and that the money's going to be spent appropriately and adequately. Jesus, let me check. Yep, that's what you want from
Yeah,
your political leaders.
yeah,
So, like, don't don't get bent out of shape that you come to a local political whatever, maybe an HOA board, maybe county commissioner, maybe be an alderman, maybe a parish commissioner, city council. Hell, keep marching up the food chain. Maybe some sort of regional director or manager. Could even be at the state level, federal level. They're gonna have questions. It's okay to answer them. Probably one of the better things to do is basically overpromise and or don't overpromise and then underdeliver.
yeah.
You
Under
really,
promise and over
yeah,
deliver 100% of the time.
you really, and you're going to strike that chord on the first swing. Uh, Anyone and everyone is going to make their decisions based on someone off the first impression, and it is really hard to recover from bad first impression. Um, and you're going to have to, even if you're not used to it, get better at making those political appearances and having those kind of weird and hard to have discussions without it becoming this weird, emotional, passionate, automatic attacking the organization because someone just wants a question for clarification. Um, Because if you come out of the gate swinging off that first impression really hard, shockingly, when you have future contact and discussions with your political leaders and your entities, they already know that you're coming to the game loaded for bear, and it already changes the discussion out of the gate. And I would argue it makes your life a lot easier. That's my idiot perspective.
Yeah, and the other things, don't ask for every little itty bitty thing that you can take care of some other way, right?
Right. Well,
Don't overburden the system with just stupid stuff.
so one of the challenges on this particular project is, oddly enough, in a fire burn house, you light it on fire. So if you're a contractor and you're doing work, you might be a little tentative on turning a bid in because you are literally taking their work and lighting it on fire. And they're going to have a hard time operating at face value on that premise and saying, hey, this broke 2 years later. Like, you're literally lighting it on fire. I need something to give me a little bit of protection here. The other part of this is realizing, and we contacted multiple contractors, and quite frankly, getting a bid on this project was sheer hell because it was a burn house and we do light the project on fire. Um, and the commissioners, when the project was first presented, the commissioners have a lot on their budgetary plate this year, and they came at me with a at face value kind of difficult request. Now, I can sit there and stomp my feet and tell the commissioners how terrible they are and how they don't support the fire department and obviously they want everyone in the community to die. Or I can just run with it and realize that the commissioners have actually been uncharacteristically beneficial to our organization and the other organizations around us in our county, and that they've really actually opened up at the end of the day the coffers, and they have this little request. Okay, why don't we just see if we can come close to meeting the request? The request wasn't that big of a one. At the end of the day, we were plus $5,000 where we needed to be.
Yeah. Just
So,
make an effort and see, right?
what do you really break the back of the gift horse over 5 grand? I mean, kind of got to take it into perspective a little bit. I mean, is it life safety? Well, no, it's not. It's training. How big of a difference does that 5 grand make? Does it actually affect it? Maybe another contractor will give us a different price. Just got to find them. So I'm at the point now where I've done this long enough. I know politics. Actually, I know politics really well, especially my brand of politics. I know what our local politicians are doing for us, and I appreciate it. And I also know that it is a game. It is my job to squeeze as much out of them as possible, and it is their job to try and close the tap as hard as they possibly can. And that's just part of it. And there's nothing wrong with putting a little extra time, energy, and effort on the political side to see what the dividends are year after year after year after year. I'll give you another, just not related to this project at all. Not related to this project at all. I got it was a very obvious phishing email from one of my local leaders. He's an older gentleman, probably not the most up to date with keeping up with the quickness of how fast your accounts can get compromised. And I just called him. I didn't send him an email. I didn't send him a text message. I just called him and said, hey, did you send that email? And he's like, no. I'm like, well, your email was hacked. You ought to take a whack at that. See if you can get that fixed. That's it. That's all it was. And it's not like I'm best friends with this gentleman. Good coworker. We have a very great professional working relationship. But something as simple as that. And instead of just saying, oh, well, I see where this goes. No, take the opportunity. Perfect opportunity. You get to have this fantastic little interaction and give them the heads up. And it's the world's smallest, dumbest, littlest thing. But it shows that you're thinking about them and you're trying to take care of them because that's how it's interpreted. And it's dumb. I'm telling you, it's dumb. I realize it's dumb.
But it works.
He was very appreciative.
But it works, right? So in these times when there, let's just be nice about it. There's political chaos all over the country, all over everywhere.
Sure.
I mean, it's just
Internationally, by the continent, not incontinent, continent,
that too, but locally and just you
to the
name it.
country, to the region, to the state, to the district, to the county, to the city, to even in your own damn organizations
And
right now.
your
Just
HOA, yeah.
everything is just this giant, boiling, seething cauldron of just, Christ, I might even go as far as to say hatred right now.
Well, and part of it's driven by inflation and frankly just shit cost more than what it was planned to be costing and there's nothing anybody and especially at the local level could have done about this, right? That it's just not a thing. I mean, this is the first year that I know of that we ran up hard against the end of the budget for our city budget and basically ran out of money.
Yeah, just for like little clarification for people on this. So I had this discussion early with the city when I took over as chief. I told them my budget is my best estimated guess of what our operating expenses are going to be that year with effectively 15-20% contingency. And that's in the operating budget. Okay. Not the whole budget, the operating budget. And I said, if I'm over and I've made my end of the year expenditures, I have no problem turning money back over to you. And the city was like, deal. And then the next follow-up question off of that is are you going to have a budget cut because I didn't spend it all? And they're like, that'd be retarded. Yeah, why would we do that? And I'm like, say no more. So 2020, turn money in, 21, turn money in, 22, turn money in, 23, turn money in, 24. I thought I was going to have to go to the bank and get some extra, like wheelbarrows full of cash because it caught up with me this year. My estimated maintenance budget was just a touch out of pocket. And by touch, I mean more than a touch.
Yeah, 300%.
And yeah, it's just having that relationship with the city and at the end of the year doing a bunch of budget transfers, projects planned for. Oddly enough, still hit a whole bunch of other projects that we wanted to hit. A couple of small projects got cut, but not into the world projects. Big projects got met, PPE, uh, maintenance. We'll call one of them upgrades, even though it was technically maintenance also. Um, but having the ability to work with the city and having this discussion. So uh, I'm not a big fan of the way our city does budget. Our finance director, she is a financial city god, and I have no business questioning her, but I just don't like her scheduling for budgets. And we start our budget process in February, and it's basically wrapped up by the end of March. Well, we go into budget retreat in June, and the budget for all intensive purposes is finalized in June. We don't vote on it until September. It's not passed till September. So I get a call, budget's wrapped up in March. I get a call in May and that says, hey, we got some stuff that we have to work on in the city. Do you have any budget cutting you can do? Do you have any wiggle room? Well, let's put this into perspective. Last year they just ordered 2 trucks for us. Yeah, I bet we have some wiggle room in there. I bet we can find it. Now it's kind of funny. Um, it's raining like hell, uh, and I'm driving. And I told him, I said, I can't look at it right now. City management pulled it up, and he started going line by line through the budget, and I knew what he was talking about. the freaky part is I actually even remembered the line item amounts. So the total time of us going through the budget probably wasn't 10 minutes. And one of the things that we had a lot of questions on is, to me, it makes perfect sense, but we have like 12 line items for SCBA. SCBA mass, SCBA inspection, flow testing, hydrostatic testing, the SCBA refill stations, uh, the quarterly testing on the SCBA refill air, on and on. So we have SCBA listed like 14 times in our budget. Well, each one of those is important, and we can't cut any of those. And city management, as we went through and made some trimming in other categories, he starts laughing. And he just said, I don't know of anyone else in the city that would actually be able to have that discussion without looking at their budget in front of them. He's like, I'm surprised you know it that well. And I'm like, I'm surprised you even questioned. Um, Out of a $1.3 million budget, we cut 60,000. Oh, the pain.
Yeah.
Oh, it's terrible. The bleeding won't stop. Yeah, it was real rough. So again, having those relationships, I can't tell you how important they are, particularly for when the times do suck. And I mean, you got to have a real discussion. This is, you get to have an adult discussion now. And it could be something that's just really bad that's affecting the department, or an emergency capital purchase, um, or uh, hell, the membership did something bad, or good, and the community's misrepresenting it. Social media's out trying to eat you alive. I mean, there's 5,000 scenarios that I can give you, but generally, if city management and city councils and commissioners and judges and state reps and emergency management coordinators and on and on and on, if they like you, God, it sure is weird how the world works. It really is.
Yeah. And realize that we're in an interesting spot, right? Because we're pretty far advanced. We're on the cutting edge of tactics, cutting edge of equipment. We're on the cutting edge of leadership and department and all these things, right? We're in the top, what is it, 7%, 5% of the nation in ISO. We're we're way up there, right? We're a little bit better than maybe your average rural VFD. And
I'll challenge this one thing. We have taken full advantage of the circumstances that we were presented.
well, yeah, but my point is like when we enter into those conversations, we gain a little bit more respect because of how serious we take what we do, right? We do a good job with it. We always do the best that we can do no matter what. And I think that gets recognized by the political critters for certain, and definitely like city management. And I think even if it's not recognized by 100% of the public, 99% of the public realizes it. And
Right. Well, I mean,
it makes those conversations easier when you have to have them.
and this, I'm getting really good at having this conversation. And this is to highlight what Jesse's emphasizing here. So I had this discussion this weekend. We have a fantastic individual that's looking at joining the organization. Uh, and she has a very unique background and perspective. And she asked, and it's a question I welcome, when is Granbury going paid? And the problem for her is that I'm really good at this question now. And It generally goes like this. Uh, it's not going to be anytime soon. Right now, we're an ISO2 rated volunteer fire department with 100 members, 3 stations, 25 apparatus. Currently, I have shoot time at 2 minutes and 39 seconds, averaged across 1,800 calls for the year. That's going to be high this year. Our call volume's down a little bit. And I'm averaging 16 on working fires. I'm averaging 12 on car accidents. I'm averaging 5 on false alarms. And the needs of the community aren't only being met, they're being exceeded by nothing but a simple volunteer. Now, that simple volunteer, I need you to also understand, is 100% certified firefighter 1 and 2 hazmat awareness and ops through the state of Texas, through the State Firefighters and Fire Marshals Association, which is an exact carbon copy of the Career Firefighters Playbook for Texas Commission of Fire Protection, TCFP. At the end of the day, we did a cost survey analysis. And if you're going to go with a career department here, what does a career department go with? Well, I can tell you this, it can't provide less than what the volunteers are providing. So we're talking about 3 shifts with 18 guys or gals on shift, at least 3 captains and 1 chief. You're talking about a 60-person department. Do a city survey of 5 comparable cities to our size. Salary and benefits is $127,000 per individual, or $7.6 million, or 28.3 cents tax increase, for a grand total of a 67% tax increase. Or would you like to stay volunteer? There's no response. There is no response to that. And I welcome anyone trying to challenge that, because it'd be great practice for me.
Or you can give up parks and libraries
And that's the advantage of our town, where we haven't spent a lot of money. And I'm not saying fire service isn't important. There's a reason it's considered an essential service. There's a reason that everyone has firefighters and cops. You need them. Okay, you got to have them. You can have terrible streets in your town, but guess what you got to have? Public safety.
yeah.
It's got to be there. And the fact of the matter is that the money that my city is saving by having a VFD allows us to actually have a lot of other opportunities for the city to invest into itself and its infrastructure and the community as a whole, and actually have things like tourism, and actually have a developing infrastructure that's not only accommodating for today but planned for tomorrow, to be able to actually sit there and take consideration into city projects, knowing that, by the way, the volunteer fire department is going to be here guaranteed for another 5 years. So we can invest accordingly and just throw a truck or two at them and know that they're going to be damn happy and they're going to continue to kick ass. And it does. I mean, now the kicker is don't be stupid. You know, you didn't do that by yourself. You did that with city management. You did that with commissioners. You know, you did that with your local leaders. Because I can guarantee you, you didn't dig up that money but completely by yourself to make that a little event happen.
Yeah, it just makes it easy to justify the expense. It makes it easy to just justify staying volunteer, frankly. And it would be a totally different story if we weren't always looking at the current situation and looking at where we need to work harder, right? Because we do that all the time. We always do that. And look at the fact that we're on the cusp of some substantial growth in our city, right? So our city's been in a building moratorium for it's been over a year now, probably close to a year and 3 months, 4 months. I don't know, maybe 2 years.
Year and a half to 2 years.
Yeah. So we've been in this moratorium because of a, a stalled sewer plant, the a stalled building of a sewer plant. So the sewer plant, you can't really add houses when you don't have anywhere for the turds to go. That's problematic, right? We have a beautiful lake and we don't want the turds in the lake. So,
Not brown fish soil.
right. So, there's all this potential development that's sitting there waiting for this moratorium to get lifted. Now, that's within probably the next 12 to 18 months. That moratorium's going to move on because the sewer plant is getting started. They're starting to work on it. And once they reach a milestone where they know they're going to have it online, they're going to lift said moratorium. And that's going to change the dynamics of our community. I've heard estimates as many as 10,000 homes. So 10,000 homes is a lot. That's more than what we currently have. So you put that in perspective, we need to be on the forefront of trying to bolster our number of stations, our capabilities to keep us ahead of that so we're not playing catch up. Now, they're not going to build 10,000 homes overnight. It's going to take dozens of years to get that completed, right?
Should.
It's not going to happen in the,
It's not trailer parks.
now 12 months following the moratorium being lifted. It's just not happening. So there's time, but at the same time, we want to be ahead of it. And I think we've done a good job of working towards getting ahead of it. I mean, we have 23 or 6, I don't remember, probationary members currently.
More than one.
Yeah. So, we're working on building numbers and getting those folks trained to a level of being useful, right? Because you walk in off the street, you're not necessarily super useful at that point. It's great that you're there, and we're gonna get you to that point where you're super useful, but it takes time, and if we're not ahead of it, we're behind it. And I see, just politically too, we see some of our neighbors and people around us that get behind the power curve on stuff, right?
Or perpetually behind it.
Or perpetually behind it. And a lot of departments struggle with being reactionary versus proactive, and that's probably the easiest way to put it. They're being reactionary to what's happening around them in their community and to them in their community instead of being proactive with it. And if I could give you any advice at all, is to be as proactive as you can be within the reasons of dollars and cents and usefulness, right?
And not sounding like an unhinged lunatic.
Right. Because if your community's had one new home a year for the past 50 years, chances are there's not 10,000 of them showing up tomorrow.
Right. It just, I there's a commonality with the organizations that I see that have been able to find their version of success, and then the organizations that are struggling. And the commonality is this: training and their consistency in their version of politics. I'm never going to say that one political style is better than the other. But what I will emphasize is their engagement in politics and how they engage. So there's, I feel pretty confident when I say that eventually, and it's not necessarily the chief, but there's someone with the organization that is engaged in politics. So it's got to happen. I mean, at the end of the day, I always make this joke: how'd you get elected? Oh, well, I was voted in. Oh, so it was political.
Yeah.
So, I mean, by nature, it's political. Sorry.
So one of the things that we've been talking about in the interdepartment here for a little bit, and I think maybe some of our listeners might drop us a line and give us some help with something, is we don't have clear defined job descriptions for our officers specifically. And that's something we need to tend to as a housekeeping issue and to kind of streamline our operation a little bit. We don't have that stuff spelled out. It's kind of just what you're responsible for, right? And there's a few things that are lined out, like the training captain's responsible for driving privileges, right? But we don't have what the chief does and what the assistant chief does lined out and written out. And hey, shoot us an email and tell us what you got. We're we're definitely down to kind of take some influence from others because we we believe in the case method, copy and steal everything. Thank you, Stephen Sullivan, for that acronym. But uh, it it's beneficial for us to kind of move forward in some of our operational, structural kind of uh, protocols for our people. So Matt's over here flicking his phone as fast as humanly possible. Something's going on. It may be about to blow up. I don't know. Uh, he may be on Tinder.
So while Jesse's reading that, I will emphasize the need for following and producing and creating job expectations. Uh, but more importantly, it's probably important that the chief let other people know that those things exist and that they are always freshly available for review and probably should be uh, highlighted and discussed more open.
Yeah. Well, and I knew that this kind of existed. It's just we need to kind of provide that in a different packet, so to say. And then also establish you had the point the other day about, it's one thing you get this position, right? You get named a lieutenant, and then maybe you have this task book of things to accomplish and do that are beyond your normal job responsibilities that put you in a position to stay in that position, right? Or to advance from that position. And it's training centric, it's project centric, it's doing things for the benefit of the department that could also be a benefit to the individual, but primarily it's a benefit to the department.
Right. So, kind of the side discussion that we've been having for quite a while here is there's a lot of, I'm going to call them non-standard things that we do that have put us in the position that we're in. And I think one of the non-standard discussion pieces is, don't get me wrong, we're gonna have this discussion a lot in the future, near future actually. Call it a job promotion handbook. But I want you to take everything that you're thinking of a job promotion handbook and immediately reverse it. Like take it and turn it on its head. The fact of the matter is that being volunteer, you can have someone join your organization that's actually been doing this crap for a really long time. So are you gonna force them to go through your process of your job promotion handbook? Or are you gonna acknowledge the certificates and trainings that they already have? It's an interesting debate. I can make an argument on either side, but I would look at it this way, as particularly as a VFD, is you're picking people, in our case, we do, after the chief and assistant chief are elected. The other officers are picked by the chief and assistant chief and then presented to the membership. Okay. So if we're picking a lieutenant for a position, they wouldn't be considered for the position if we didn't think they were capable of handling the responsibilities of the position. My question is this, and this is something that particularly VFDs have a problem with. Once someone gets a title, they disappear.
Or they become useless.
Right.
They may be there, but they're useless.
And what I'm thinking is you have a reverse promotion handbook. And you say, okay, congratulations, you're now a station lieutenant. This year, I need you to find what training the trainer class you want to take, and I need you to find a board to go sit on. It can be with the fire department or it can be somewhere in the community. But I need you to actually be a benefit to the organization, not yourself. Don't get me wrong. You're going to get your own personal benefits and your own enhancement to your application by just having me, or your resume by just having the title and the position. But why don't we actually go out and get you to start doing things that are as much a benefit to you as they are as a benefit to the organization? Um, so it's not training before you have the position, it's training while you hold the position. That's what I'm after.
Yeah, and it's kind of hinges on keeping the position, right? If you're not going to put the effort into those couple of little extra things that are going to set you up for success farther down the road, why would we keep you in that position? Why would we expect you to stay in that position if you're not willing to continue to grow? Right? That's not the end.
Right.
It's the beginning.
And I actually wrote this down one night. Let me find my chicken scratch.
It's the same thing we tell them at rookie school when they're going through that. Like, this is the beginning of your training. This isn't the end of your training. You're not going to know everything there is to know. And I'm here, the one instructing the training as a master firefighter and a master instructor. And I'm here learning things today too. And to me, that's a big part of it. You never stop learning.
So just kind of the example. So lieutenant, pick one and complete. Train the trainer in anything. Sit on a board that helps or promotes the organization. Take an advanced strategy tactics or command and control class, SFFMA Officer 1. So you don't do all those in 1 year. You pick one. When you're a lieutenant next year, you do the next one. And when you're a lieutenant again, you do the next one. And then when you finally are captain, you have these options: SFFMA delegate, NVFC officer class, NFA officer classes, FDIC officer classes, FRI officer classes, TEACS officer classes, SFFMA officer 2. Pick something. Pick something that benefits you and the organization. Battalion chief, start going to the Comanche Peak nuclear power plant drills. Uh, Conference on development, advanced training the trainers, review of SOPs, SOGs, articles, bylaws, recommendations. Assistant chief, head to the state and take a fire chief development class, NIMS 3 and 4. IAFC, become a member, attend a conference, review and make recommendations on articles, bylaws, SOPs, SOGs. Chief, all of the above, NIMS 3 and 4, fire chief development class. Sit on an external board. Just get out there and practice representing the organization and always making yourself better for the betterment of the organization. It's a different idea. So instead of having these things done, you're going to get them done while you hold these positions.
And I know it's a big discussion in the fire service about how electing officers and changing officers every year and all that. And realize that a lot of these people that get these positions hold on to them for years and decades, right? It's not like it's every year there's a whole new group of people. Sometimes people are given these promotions and they just fall flat on their face and they don't accomplish anything and they don't get asked to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly feel like an anomaly as a fire chief. The classic 4 or 5 year chief. They're either brand new or they've done it for 50. They're like, is literally almost impossible to find someone in between. The 50's a touch high, but realistically 15 to 20, pretty standard, career and volunteer. Um, it is just unusual to find a really stable organization that also happens to run through brand new officers every year. Um,
It happens that they get some change and some turnover. I mean, we've seen guys that were given positions that either life got in the way or whatever, and they weren't able to participate, right? And they didn't get the opportunity again after that because they kind of drug their feet and failed. But for the most part, most of them are getting a promotion and they're holding on to it for a while until they get the next one.
I think my comment was more aimed at Chief.
Yeah. And Chiefs, average tenure is probably 7 to 10 years. I don't know. I don't see lots of departments switching around a lot, and I think it's a fallacy of the volunteer fire service that you can't get anything done because you get a new chief every year. I just don't see that as what's happening. Now, if a chief's a failure, they're not going to let him do it again.
No, and he should.
Right.
But I'll also counter, just to make it spicy. You can point it at a department that's changed chief every year for the last 5 years and has found success with that.
There's a few. I would argue there's a few.
I need numbers.
Yeah.
No, like I said, it's just a discussion point. Here's the other part of it. I have seen several departments that I would argue are in a rough patch, and chief's been there for 3 centuries.
Yeah. No, that's a thing.
Yeah,
I think
counter argument.
I think there is a limit to that outliving your welcome, right? Or it's just that tendency to want to hold on to the power that they think they got.
But here's the other part of it: complacency.
Yeah.
Well,
the organization gets complacent, the membership's complacent. It's not just the chief.
No, yeah, it's just it's easier to be in a rut, and it's easier to just kind of go with it, and it's easier to just say, well, nobody else will do it, so I am again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I will say this: I think some of the greatest changes I've seen in organizations are when they do change out
leadership.
And I'm not talking about like a coup here, like a solid African coup. I'm talking like just a legitimate passing of the torch. I've seen some really awesome things happen from that.
Yeah. And just my phone goes off just a second ago and it's another application, right? So that's
it's okay though, guys. This one's only got 5 years of experience and it's certified through everything through us. So he'll fit right in. Anyways.
Yeah. So last month before the meeting, and we had 6 interviews scheduled prior to the meeting last month. We've been trying to schedule those the hour or two before the meeting of the first of the month, and it just kind of consolidates the action so those people aren't coming 3 or 4 times before they're getting voted on. And we were holding interviews, and I was on the phone with a colleague who's on the certification board with me with the state. And I was like, hey, man, we got to make this quick. I got 6 interviews to do tonight. And he was like, what do you mean 6 interviews? I'm like, we got 6 interviews. I think we have 2 more that have already been interviewed this month, but we've got 6 tonight. And he's like, no. What? I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much an every month thing for us. We do about, I don't know, 6 to 10 interviews a month. And not all of them make it, and not all of them stay to get voted on, and it is what it is, but we do that many interviews. and we lose them through the process of the background checks and whatnot. That understand that we're like anybody else. We don't get they're not all as good as this last one that we just got, right? We get bad ones too. And he just couldn't believe it and didn't understand. And I get that he doesn't understand, right? He comes from a department that's a combination department. He's trying to do it the way everybody else is trying to do it, and arguably they're all running into the same problem. So why are they keep going down that path, and why do they keep doubling down on that? I'll never truly understand that. But they just can't fathom what we're doing. It's literally unfathomable to the bulk of the state. You're reading intensely.
It's been a weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's my brain is fried.
Yeah.
Honestly, thinking about that whiskey, I shouldn't be that rough at this point anymore.
Well, we've been going a while. It's been a good conversation. You know, if you haven't yet picked up on the fact that, one, you got to engage in politics, and two, you got to be carrying the torch forward. And if you're not going forward, you're going backwards, basically. From all the things we say, it's important. And then I want to throw in one last thing. So the call for presenters for Texas State Firemen Fire Marshal Association has been popped up. We will definitely be putting in to be a presenter again, do another podcast live. From this time it'll be Frisco. But we need topics. We need help coming up with a topic, because we're gonna put down a topic on this form, and virtually we can talk about anything because we have opinions about everything. But that's a hard thing to do, is to pick a topic for basically 9 months from now, and stick to it. Now, we changed last minute on the format and some of what we were going to talk about, but the topic stayed the same, right? So it's got to be broad enough that it lends some flexibility to us to be able to interpret it our way. And I'm not really interested in a tactics topic, or a armchair quarterbacking topic, or a topic on, smooth bore versus fog nozzle topic, or versus the hen. I'm not interested in that topic. I'm interested in some meat and potatoes topic that has to do with volunteer fire service specifically.
Yeah, the real issues.
The real issues, like, we can't drink a beer while we're on the grass fire, and terrible topic, but just, we want something better. And so reach out to us. You can hit us on the Facebook. There's a little thread going about topics, and there's been a lot of conversation on that thread and comments about what are some topics, or drop us an email if you got a topic. I mean, we're open to consider all of them, and just kind of see what we land on. We probably need to get this done in the next, I don't know, 30 days, and get that pumped in there so that we can be for sure on the list, and get our little room set up so that we can do our thing. But I think that was one of our most popular episodes ever of the podcast. It got quite a few views on the YouTube. It got a lot of listens on the rest of the avenues to listen to us. And honestly, I want to do it again. I think Matt wants to do it again.
Very much
So
so.
help us out.
I like this. I mean, I'm sorry. There's a lot of people that are naysayers on volunteerism. And I'm telling you, it's the answer. Don't get me wrong, it's a lot of work. Sometimes it's too late. and you need to evaluate other options. But it's the answer, because if you figure it out and you're able to communicate it and you're able to get buy-in, oh my God, the
You know,
things that are capable on the back end of that, cities are jealous. They should be. They are.
well, and a testament to the program that we're building and the organization that we're building is the fact that career departments, and not just little podunk career departments, are coming to us looking for talent. They're coming to us looking for how we do it, how we've managed to do the things that we're doing, and I consider that like the highest form of flattery that there could possibly be in this, is the fact that somebody from a career department that's been a career department a long time is reaching out to us and say, "You guys are awesome. How are you doing this? I I got something. I can learn something from you." And it a lot of it is transferable.
Yeah, but the other part I'll add to this is not being afraid to have those icky conversations about the strengths and weaknesses of the organization, and not being afraid to say, we don't know, but we know it's an issue or a threat or an obstacle, and we're working on it. And because it's a continuing project. And the day that you sit there and say you're done is the day that I would argue
You're done.
you're done. You're in deep trouble when you find contentment. There's a whole that's I just finally remembered what the hell we were supposed to talk about.
That
It was that. This was a conversation that I had with a member last weekend. Okay. We've had his point was is that we've had a lot of radical change. And my point was, okay, what is it? What's so radical to change? Oh my God, we're going to calls. Oh my God, we have money. Oh my God, we're meeting our obligation. Oh my God, we have people on calls. Oh my God, we have lots of people at training. Oh my God, we have people hanging out at the station. What's so terrible? What's so radical about that? What's
so so we did make one radical change, right? One. And that's we increased the size of the boundary that a member of our department could come from. And that member is a limited membership. It's not a full-on voting member of our department. They're a member serving basically. I'd hate to put them as a substandard member because they're not substandard, but they're serving upon a privilege. Basically, we're giving them the privilege to serve with us. And we increase that geographical boundary to basically eliminate it, right, for that person. That's the change we made. We didn't make any other significant changes. We added a couple captain spots to help with workload, but that's not a significant change. That's a pretty minor change that most people didn't even notice happened. Because we didn't really add them as much as we retitled a few positions, right? So it's an interesting deal. That was the change, the big change. Everything else was just housekeeping changes in my mind. The one thing that did change was the amount of people, right? And that wasn't anything that we specifically did. It was what the department did as a whole through the membership and the board and all that to just basically take down a few barriers that hinged off of the one thing, the one change that the membership voted for. And we advertised a little bit, a very little bit,
Shockingly, very little.
very little, that I thought would dry up by now, and it's actually running. I mean, the ads are gone. The ads haven't happened in 2 months now, but the floodgates of people has not stopped.
Right.
And I think most of that is actually just word of mouth.
Now, yeah.
Yeah. And it's flattering, intensely flattering that's what it is, that it is strictly word of mouth at this point. But, and then somebody asked me earlier this week if we were going to run ads again next year. And I said, probably. Like, we may not go as deep into it as what we did this time. And it may look a little bit different, and it may be a little more targeted or something like that. But yeah, we're not going to stop just because we hit 97. We're not going to do that. Why would we do that? Because there's a fair amount of these people that are going to move or get a job somewhere else, or go on to a career, or a number of other issues that are going to take them away from us at some rate yet to be determined, right? That we need to constantly we don't need to see that number dwindle down to catch back up. We need to continue to grow. We may, I'd hate to say stifle the growth, right? But we might moderate it some. We might
Here's
reference them to somewhere else. We may do some things.
When you're picking dodgeball teams, it makes a big difference when you can pick first.
Right.
And we are getting first pick. And that's a dirty, rotten luxury.
And a benefit.
And if we have the ability to take our top 5 candidates and send 10 to other departments around us, I don't really see how we lost.
Or how we hurt somebody else. Right. So, well, with that, Matt, I'm good.
Well, we better be good. Stick a fork in me.
You're done?
I'm done.
So how can people get a hold of us to let us know?
Always reach out to us at the normal at ittasteslikeburningcast@gmail. You can find us on YouTube at ittasteslikeburningcast. Support us on Patreon. Find us on Facebook at It Tastes Like Burning Podcast. And occasionally look for us on Twitter, and let's just call it Reddit has gone too far down the sewer.
It is in the sewer. But Matt's personal cell phone is 555. Wait a minute.
Guys, we appreciate if you are still listening to the jabbering and foolishness that we continue to espouse. Can't say thank you enough.
Yep.
This is Matt.
This is Jesse.
Thank you.